Hello, it's 8 o'clock. This is the UK Tonight. Coming up, we speak to a woman whose husband's cremation was organised by the funeral home in Hull that's now the subject of a major police investigation. 35 bodies have been removed from legacy funeral directors, as well as what police suspect are human ashes. 2 people arrested in connection with this inquiry have been released on bail.
I just feel like I'm still trudging. I'm just every day just waking up for another day and another day, and like you're still waiting to find out what's going on. And it's like I don't feel like I can put him to rest. I don't feel like Carl can be at rest because everything just keeps getting, but things just keep coming back and back.
Also tonight, confirmation that Andrew Tate will face a criminal investigation in the UK. The influencer and his brother will be extradited from Romania, where they already are accused of rape and human trafficking. Speaking today, Tate insisted they are very innocent men. Prison governors are told to release inmates up to 60 days early to help with overcrowding, amid a warning that UK jails could be full by Easter. And a watchdog's warning on vet bills, why we could be overpaying for medicines for our pets. Well, that's come, much more, on the UK Tonight. But first, a woman whose husband's cremation was arranged by the funeral home at the centre of a major police investigation in Hull has been telling Sky News she feels numb. 35 bodies have been removed from legacy funeral directors, as well as suspected human ashes. 2 people arrested on suspicion of prevention of a lawful and decent burial have now been released on bail, and police say they're conducting an extremely complex investigation, having received more than 1,000 calls from concerned members of the public. With the latest, here's Sky's Fraser Maud.
A unique, funny and loving husband. Carl Millington was just 42 when he passed away last November. In December, his cremation was arranged by Legacy Independent Funeral Directors in Hull, the company now at the centre of a major police investigation. It's a situation that Carl's widow, Louisa, says has left her feeling broken.
It's like being in sinking mud, to be honest. It's like, although I've lost Carl, I just feel like I'm still trudging. I'm just every day just waking up for another day and another day, and like you're still waiting to find out what's going on. And it's like I don't feel like I can put him to rest. I don't feel like Carl can be at rest because everything just keeps getting, but things just keep coming back and back.
Humberside police say 35 bodies have now been respectfully removed from this site and taken to the city's mortuary. Ashes too have been collected for analysis as part of a complex and sensitive investigation.
This is an extremely complex and sensitive investigation with heartbroken families at the core of it. We are determined to ensure that we keep families at the centre of everything that we do.
I recognise that this is a distressing time for all of those affected, and I have no doubt it will have a significant impact across all our local communities and beyond. However, this is an incredibly lengthy investigation and a highly intricate one at that, with many extensive lines of inquiry. The dedicated phone line remains open, and thus far we have received over 1,000 phone calls from members of the public since Friday.
The investigation into what police are calling an extremely horrifying incident has prompted concerns and speculation across the city.
So I think people are reeling at the moment. They're upset, they're shocked, they're hurt. And it's just that sense of how could this have happened and how could this have happened in our community?
Humberside police have so far released little detail about the nature of the investigation, which detectives say is to preserve its integrity. Humberside police say a 46-year-old man and a 23-year-old woman have been arrested on suspicion of the prevention of illegal and decent burial, on suspicion of fraud by false representation, and on suspicion of fraud by abuse of position. The pair were questioned over the weekend and have now been released on police bail. Louisa has been told by officers that they hope to update her on their findings within 14 days. With the investigation continuing to expand, it seems dozens of families may be facing a similar anxious wait. Fraser Maud, Sky News, Hull.
Labour says the government's plan to allow prisoners to shave up to 2 months off their prison sentence is the most drastic form of early release in UK history. Well, it comes amid growing pressure on the UK prison system, with a warning that jails could run out of space by Easter. As of Friday, 88,220 people were imprisoned in England and Wales. That's according to the Ministry of Justice. The operational capacity is just over 89,000. That means there's currently less than 1% capacity remaining in the system. Charity, the Howard League, says that by the Ministry of Justice's own definition of safety, the prison's estate shouldn't hold more than 79,597 people. Well, the current prison population exceeds that level by more than 8,500.
We will also extend the existing end of custody supervised licence measure to around 35 to 60 days. We will enable this to happen for a time-limited period and work with the police, prisons and probation leaders to make further adjustments as required. This will only be for certain low-level offenders.
Let us be in no doubt. This is the most drastic form of early release for prisoners that this country has ever seen.
Well, Sky's Molly Malone has been following the story for some time now. Molly, it's quite a headline. Prisons fall by Easter. It's only a few weeks away. And the answer seems to be, in the government's eyes, this early release scheme. So what kind of prisoners are we looking at that could be let out early?
So the answer is to that, we don't know. What we do know is that it's prisoners, offenders serving sentences of less than 4 years. The government insists this is lower level offenders. What we do know who isn't eligible, and that's terrorists, it's sex offenders. But we had quite a significant intervention today from the Domestic Abuse Commissioner, Nicole Jacobs, who is calling on the government to issue a specific exemption for domestic abuse perpetrators not to be eligible for the scheme. Now, obviously, domestic abuse perpetrators go to prison serving sentences of 4 years plus, but there will be those that are serving sentences of less than 4 years. So she's saying it's those types of offenders who shouldn't be eligible under this scheme. But as you say, SJ, we've been covering this story for months now. The government very much insists that since October, when they launched this scheme, that it is only temporary and that it is to relieve immediate pressure in prisons. As your intro alluded to, they are pretty much full to the brim. But there are serious concerns in the prison service, yes, but also in the probation service, who, of course, are responsible for vetting these prisoners, I guess, if you like, to see whether they can be let out at appropriate times. This was a scheme that was once launched in October, that prisoners could leave up to 18 days before the end of their sentence. Now that's been quite drastically extended, 35 days up to 60 days, so 2 months. Now, to the average person, that might not sound like a huge amount of time. It's just 2 months before the end of their sentence. But people in the probation service point out to me that actually, in some cases, that can mean speeding up a risk management process. And importantly, it's, you know, perhaps an accommodation place that doesn't exist at that particular point. Speeding that up by a month can have quite a significant impact.
And, of course, tell that to the victims of the crimes as well.
Exactly, who might sometimes only get a quick phone call to say that their offender, their perpetrator, is being released the next day, which would come as a shock from their perspective. So I think, you know, from the government's point of view, they insist this is temporary. They insist that it will only be used in certain circumstances for certain offenders. But in less than 6 months, we've seen it extended quite drastically, and we've seen documents that really stress the kind of urgent impact of this and the urgent necessity for it from the government to prisons, and they're in less than 6 months in, they're already extending it quite significantly, and I think it's only going to run on.
OK, Molly, we'll talk to you about this again, I am sure. Is this the answer to fix the problem of prisons nearly at full capacity? Let's speak to the former Director General of the Prison Service, Phil Wheatley, who joins us here on the UK tonight. How has this happened? Prisons are going to be full at Easter.
It's happened because it has been forecast for some time. It isn't a surprise. The government's own forecast told them it was going to happen. It's mainly the consequence of longer sentences, which is deliberate government policy, and also making it harder to get parole, early release by the parole board, and increasing the number of recalls, so there's much tougher supervision of people outside. And that's what's driving the population, and simply the new places haven't been provided that the policy ambition required, and that is a failure of government.
Early release, is that going to fix the problem?
It's a sticking plaster that will stop the whole system falling apart. Otherwise, the courts could end up sentencing and there's nowhere to put people. So it's a short-term solution. It isn't, in the long run, the right thing to be doing if you're trying to maintain a a sensible, coherent justice strategy that the public understand. So these sort of last-minute changes aren't a good idea.
Yeah, last-minute changes, and as we've been discussing, the justice system is stretched, everywhere. It's not just the prison system. We're talking about the court system. As Molly Malone, our correspondent, was alluding to there, the probation service is stretched as well. So this is the government announcing something that possibly can't be done with great effectiveness. How do you suddenly speed up early release for enough prisoners to allow for the next influx to come in?
I think the prison service will cope with releasing people, though they will go out with very little notice, because the idea is it's only used at the last minute in prisons that are under particular stress. So it's not something you're planning for. So it will make the probation service's job more difficult. And yes, the probation service are under pressure. There are about 2,000 staff, trained probation officers, less than they should have. And they've only got just under 5,000 probation officers in the whole of the country. So this additional work is not going to be easy for them to do, because they're failing at the moment to do all the things they should be doing with their existing workload.
What we haven't had is the detail of who will be eligible for this early release. Do you have an idea of what kind of prisoners might be on the list?
Not really. I expect that it will be people who have got charged with non-violent offences, doing sort of medium and short-term sentences, and many of them will not pose a great risk. They will be going to get out soon in any case. So I think that's what will happen. But nobody can predict risk with complete accuracy, and certainly the idea that prison governors in overcrowded prisons with insufficient staff are going to be able to pick winners and spot the ones who are losers is naive. We will be releasing people who represent some risk, and some of them will reoffend earlier than they otherwise would have done, probably not for the most heinous offences.
And this is all being done for practical reasons. Prisons are nearly at maximum capacity. But I wonder what kind of message this sends to the victims of crime, because, we talk about low-level crime, violent crime. If you're the victim of crime, it is a crime, and you expect justice to be served and that sentence to be completed.
I agree with that. I think whatever the sentence of the court is, the expectation of the victims and the public should be that actually takes place. It isn't curtailed just for convenience. So I think there is a genuine issue for the credibility of the system.
And just a final question, if I can, Mr Wheatley. The Justice Secretary, Alex Chalk, was announcing measures in the House of Commons, and he said he's going to target reductions in the number of foreign national offenders in UK prisons, which is estimated to be around 10,000 of the prisoners currently in the system. Is that the problem, or is that just a good headline? Where does that fit into this jigsaw?
Well, within the prison system, there are a number of foreign national prisoners, people who have come from foreign countries who offended here and will eventually be deported. Often not easy to do. There's been a long history of governments promising to deport more offenders and finding it very difficult in practice to get them back to the countries they want to send them to. So I'm always wary when a politician makes a promise that things are going to be improved in this area, because there isn't much of a track record of being able to make a big difference that's sufficient to impact on the population pressures across the prison estate.
OK, we'll continue to follow this story here on the UK Tonight. Phil Wheatley, former Director General of the Prison Service, thank you for your time this evening. Now, as a young police officer, Rebecca Callum dreamed of being a chief constable. However, she had to give up her firearms job at West Midlands Police and, in fact, give up her entire career to blow the whistle on sex discrimination and harassment in the force. Well, Rebecca won an employment tribunal last year and has sued the West Midlands Police Force for more than £800,000 in loss of earnings and her pension. Rebecca joins me now in the studio to talk about her experience. Rebecca, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you.
This reached its conclusion at the start of the year. You left the police force to talk about your treatment within it. What was life like as a woman in the firearms unit, seen as the elite level of the police force?
So the firearms unit do some amazing work, and they are at that high-end level of criminality. However, my experience has changed throughout the years within the unit. And from misogyny to victimisation to some really, really quite scary behaviour that was escalating to the point where actually women within the public and women within the force were in danger.
Some of the experiences you had are quite harrowing, actually. You talk about an exercise you went through where you had to take your clothes off. If you can you talk to us about that? Because I think it's really important just to illustrate how bad things are. Misogyny, there is no sliding scale. Misogyny is misogyny. But just to give people an idea of what you went through.
So I never had to take my clothes off. I actually didn't know that was going to happen until I was stripped down. So the example that was being played out in a scenario was a fast aid exercise,
this
where
is a training exercise,
a scenario, where there was a bullet wound on my leg, and an officer had gone through it before, a male officer. They'd cut up the side of the leg for the trousers and exposed the wound and then treated the wound. End of the exercise. I was told that was exactly what was going to happen to me, no further than the shin, no problem at all. So I agreed to that, had no issue with that at all. What actually ended up happening was they gave me a suit that they couldn't cut through. Because they couldn't cut through it, it got ragged down to my legs, nearly taking off my underwear, and then everything else got stripped off my top end, and I was there in my sports bra, and then the trainer just went, there's the wound on the top of the left breast, and then the hands just went straight on.
Rebecca, I can tell that still gets you now to be in that situation with male colleagues and to feel so vulnerable. So thank you for talking about that. I think it's really important just to highlight how bad it was for you. That incident wasn't a solitary one. There were other incidents like that. In that particular unit, what was the day-to-day culture like? Because we've heard a lot about police and what they share on WhatsApp, but daily you were confronted with sexual harassment.
It was a daily thing. In the end, you get tired of challenging that behaviour, whether it's via WhatsApp texts of pornography, of ladies' legs open wide, showing their clitoris and labia, which is unacceptable, whether it's pictures and caricatures of women drawn in a hijab with their breasts out, serving alcohol to male firearms officers. The list continues. And when you challenge that behaviour and stand up, you then get victimised about it. And that's the problem. It's the same with the Angelini inquiry. Every single time...
Which was into Wayne Couzens, the murder of Sarah.
Correct, yes. Just being released, you know, one of the recommendations is the fact around we need to create this safe culture for whistleblowers. Well, 3 of my witnesses now supported me, and they themselves have been now injured in the line of duty because they are all off sick as a result of the victimisation that they have had from West Midlands Police. And throughout all of this, we have no leadership. The Chief Constable has not come out once to this day to take ownership, to be accountable, and that is embarrassing for his staff members there to go, hang on a second here, where is the leadership? Where is the change? Because I've seen so much of no change whatsoever, and these red flags that I'm highlighting, no officers get sanctioned, nothing happens.
What happened to the men, the fellow officers, the colleagues that did this to you, that were part of that culture, those that you singled out and said, I could name the people that carry out this on a daily basis. I could name the people that did this to me. What's happened to them?
I named all 110 officers, plus
110
firearms officers, going all the way up to the Chief Constable himself, the former Chief Constable, for racist, misogynistic and homophobic behaviours. Nothing has happened to them. They've either been able to retire on their full pensions, they've either gone to other areas of the force, or they're still carrying a gun to this day. And the escalation of behaviour continues because there are no sanctions. And then when the police investigate themselves, because your Professional Standards Department investigates them, they cover it up. So you have and your team saw it already, the text messages and the WhatsApp of those videos, those pornographic videos, where they have said these are grossly offensive. But because one officer who's investigated it says, that's not grossly offensive to me, therefore we're not going to take it any further.
Rebecca, that's a little bit of an insight into what you were going through trying to call out this behaviour, because you had to leave your job, you had to leave your career to call this out. What was the situation like on the inside when you tried to address this?
It was, let's save our reputation. That was the behaviours. Let's do everything we can to gaslight Becky. Let's do everything we possibly can to try and cover it up so that this doesn't go out in the open. And they fought me the whole way, even to using taxpayers' money to pay for a King's Counsel to defend the case, which they'd already admitted. Now, how is that possible? And, you know, women still have not been bought the PPE that I campaigned for. I was going out with a body armour of 3 years out of date. They wouldn't
You actually use your own money to give to the police to buy the correct fitting equipment for a woman. Did you ever see that?
Never. They took my money, never saw where it went to. They still haven't been bought the tops now. But yet they spent £400,000 on male body armour that wasn't required for the men, but wouldn't spend £850 on one female vest.
You mentioned the report into Sarah Everard's killer, the former Met officer Wayne Couzens, that found police repeatedly failed to spot warning signs about his unsuitability for the role. And that report concluded that there is nothing to stop another Wayne Couzens. Given what you've experienced from the inside of the police force, you've dealt with these kind of officers. What do you think when you heard that particular part of the report?
Absolutely true. They're operating in plain sight. And the senior leaders are aware of it and they're doing nothing.
Right.
And for me...
They say they've changed. They say they've changed. In fact, you know, you'll be aware of the catalogue of reports, findings, recommendations about different police forces up and down the UK, and the response from those forces, we read them out all the time here on Sky News. We get it. We're changing. Actually, we're already better.
Show me the proof. For me, the culture of any organisation is shaped by the worst behaviour its leaders willing to tolerate. The leader of West Midlands Police is willing to tolerate a lot. We police by consent in the UK. We do not police by corruption. And that is how it's feeling now. That's how the public feel. The public deserve more and expect nothing less.
Well, Rebecca Callum, thank you so much. You did win your case of sexual discrimination against West Midlands Police Force, which we should point out is in special measures. And you've donated all that money to charity because you want something good to come out of all of this. Thank you so much for telling your story, Rebecca. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, 10 members of staff from the West Midlands Police Firearms Unit are currently undergoing investigations or training in the wake of Rebecca's case that you just heard there. 3 are currently suspended. We have had a statement from Deputy Chief Constable Scott Green, who said over the past 2 years, officers and staff in the Firearms Unit have worked hard to improve culture, standards and the working environment. We reviewed how we recruit firearms officers to increase the diversity of people who apply and remove barriers to recruitment. We also changed and bolstered the leadership in our Operations and Firearms Unit. Alongside this, we changed how our firearms officers work as part of our local policing model to support our neighbourhood and response teams in serving local communities. That is the response of West Midlands Police. Now, in other news today, influencer Andrew Tate is to be extradited to the UK. This is after police secured a European arrest warrant over allegations of rape and human trafficking. Tate and his brother were back in court in Romania today, and any extradition to the UK will have to wait until legal proceedings against the pair have concluded in Bucharest. Here's our crime correspondent, Martin Brunt.
Hours after their arrest, the Tate brothers, Tristan, the younger one first, then Andrew, were taken into court to fight the extradition request. They lost. The hearing lasted more than an hour. Later, freed from custody, the brothers spoke outside their Bucharest home.
Do you want to go back to the UK?
I'm sure we'll go back at some point. I have nothing to fear. I have nothing to be afraid of. I know I've done nothing wrong. The fact that they are now seeing that we're going to win this case and have pulled up some garbage from 2012, I mean, if that doesn't demonstrate to the world that this is a matrix attack, and I know a lot of people, especially in the media and other establishments, don't understand how these things work, but they're not allowing us to win. They don't want us to win, and they've realized they need to get desperate, so they've gone all the way back to 2012.
According to a lawyer who's planning civil action against them in the UK, there was a suspicion they were about to flee Romania. The brothers deny that.
We alerted the UK authorities and we made a plea that if they were going to act, that they act now before Tate has a chance to evade justice in Romania and also the UK.
The brothers were both kickboxers once, now huge but controversial social media influencers, celebrated and condemned for their lavish lifestyles and sexist views on women. In Bucharest for the past 2 years, they've been fighting charges of rape and human trafficking brought by Romanian women. Now, the brothers face new and similar allegations from British women in claims made to Bedfordshire police.
See you next time. Thank you. You arrest again? Why?
The judge approved the UK extradition, but it won't happen until the Romanian charges have been dealt with. The brothers' lawyer spoke after the hearing.
You must bear in mind that at the time when the foreign authorities issue such an arrest warrant, the description of the facts is rather brief and rather incomplete. It seems that we are talking about acts that were allegedly committed many years ago, over 10 years.
Apart from the criminal allegations, Andrew Tate is also facing a UK civil action. 4 women claim he raped them, old accusations that were investigated by Hertfordshire police but later dropped.
Allegations by who? Who are the women? What are their names?
The Tate brothers deny all allegations against them. They're banned from leaving Romania, but that restriction is the subject of their next court battle. Martin Brunt, Sky News.
As still to come here on the UK Tonight, we'll have the latest reaction to the comments made by a Tory donor about Diane Abbott. This is as the police at number 10 get involved tonight. We'll have the details for you.
I think there's 2 reasons. One is Major League Cricket, which was a league that started last year, and that is T20. And the knock-on effect of that is America's one of the hosts of the T20 World Cup, and that's going to see America involved, but also India-Pakistan, one of the fiercest rivalries in cricket, and that takes place in New York. And T20 is fast, it's furious, it's all action, and it's attracting big crowds in new stadiums or stadiums also that are still being built, including in Los Angeles. And the stadiums are being packed because the tickets are affordable, because there's a number of South Asian expats in particular in the United States of America that are packing those stadiums out. And then because it's fast and furious and all action, we're getting a lot of baseball fans attending as well because they see the crossover. But unlike in baseball, which drags on for 3.5 hours and sometimes doesn't even have a home run, there's a 6 every other minute in this T20 format. And I think a lot of the baseball fans are enjoying that. In the United States of America, the streaming hasn't traditionally always been conducive in terms of when you want to get up and your working hours. But a lot of those that live in America, and we should say Canada as well, are starting to realise from highlights and from social media in particular, when they see maybe a big 6 and they think, wow, that's interesting. And suddenly they watch it again and again, they look up the rules and then they realise maybe there's a stadium down the road. These new Major League Cricket teams are on both coasts and centrally as well. You've got Los Angeles, you've got New York, you've got San Francisco, you've got Seattle, you've got Texas, and you've got Washington. So maybe what you see online prompts people to go with their families as well, because the stadiums are very accessible and the tickets compared to baseball, for example, are very cheap.
Welcome back. You're watching the UK Tonight. Here's what's coming up. We'll be taking a look at whether pet owners are being charged too much as the competition watchdog launches an investigation into the veterinary sector after finding multiple concerns. And the shocking moment, a car flips and explodes after being hit by a drunk driver on a busy motorway. Now, the Prime Minister's spokesperson says comments that were allegedly made by a major Conservative Party donor were racist and wrong. Frank Hester is alleged to have said Labour MP Diane Abbott makes him want to hate all black women and she should be shot. Well, Ms Abbott has reported Mr Hester to the police. Our political correspondent Serena Barker-Singh reports.
Diane Abbott said she got into politics to be the voice to the voiceless, to promote racial justice as Britain's first black female MP. Today, attacked because of just that. Comments have emerged from the biggest Tory donor, Frank Hester, reportedly telling colleagues Diane Abbott made him want to hate all black women and that the former Labour MP should be shot. He has since accepted he was rude about the MP and said he had tried to ring her twice to apologise directly. This evening, the Prime Minister called those comments racist and wrong.
Is it right to keep Frank Hester's millions, sir?
But earlier, all government ministers sent out for interviews repeatedly refused to use that term.
I don't think what he was saying was a gender-based or a race-based comment, but it was clearly inappropriate.
They're truly awful remarks, aren't they? So there's nothing I can say apart from to condemn them and say that he's absolutely right to apologise.
Some ignored the question altogether.
Frank Hester, following his comments about Diane Abbott. Thank you.
I didn't see how you could argue they're not racist.
Senior black Tory MPs were the first to call out the remarks, hours before Rishi Sunak's intervention. Kwasi Kwarteng and Kemi Badenoch said the comments, as reported, were racist.
What do you think about your own party not calling them racist if you believe they're racist?
Well, look, the first thing I've said repeatedly, that we don't know what he said.
What about the money? Do you think we should...
Again, we're running ahead of ourselves. But I think if someone says that makes me hate black women, I don't see how those remarks aren't sexist or racist. I don't understand that.
Diane Abbott has now reported the incident. The Met Police say they are assessing the matter. She's also said in a statement, "It is frightening. I live in Hackney and do not drive, so I find myself at weekends popping on a bus or even walking places more than most MPs. I am a single woman and that makes me vulnerable anyway. I'm currently not a member of the Parliamentary Labour Party, but remain a member of the Labour Party itself, so I'm hoping for public support from Keir Starmer." Now, Diane Abbott isn't a Labour MP because she herself is under investigation over alleged anti-Semitic comments and has lost the Labour whip as a result, pending an investigation. Now, that investigation is over a year long and waiting to conclude, but the Labour Party and Keir Starmer have reached out to her today personally to offer her support. And that's because MP safety is a live issue here. More MPs are feeling unsafe than ever before, and what some of them say is that the words politicians use really matter, and no one should be playing politics with racism. With the most senior female black minister calling the reported comments racist before the Prime Minister today, it's a reminder not only of Tory divisions, but questions too over Rishi Sunak's political judgment. Serena Barker-Singh, Sky News, Westminster.
And the controversy about Frank Hester's remarks are sure to feature in tomorrow's newspapers. Our extended press preview is coming up and news review from 10:30 this evening. Joining us tonight, the journalist and broadcaster Jenny Kleeman and the broadcaster and commentator Ali Miraj. That's on the way a little later. Now, Cambridgeshire police have released footage of the moment a drink driver smashed into another car at speed on a busy motorway. 27-year-old Neelan Chauhan was behind the wheel of a Volkswagen Polo when he slammed into the back of a Mitsubishi, causing it to flip over on the A14 in Cambridgeshire. Miraculously, the victim escaped and walked away from the collision with just minor injuries. Mr. Chauhan was given a 16-month prison sentence, suspended for 2 years and banned from driving for 3 years. Still to come on the UK tonight, are you being ripped off at the vets? We'll tell you all you need to know, and we'll meet the teens who are so sick of the fact that there wasn't any decent cricket kit for girls, they created their own. competition watchdog is investigating the UK vet sector after it found pet owners might be paying too much for medicines and prescriptions. The Competitions and Markets Authority says it has identified multiple concerns, with owners often not being given enough information about available treatments and the cost. Sky's Conor Gillis has this report.
On the outskirts of Glasgow, friends Frank and Charles have their weekly catch-up. They're among 16 million British pet owners, a costly business when choices are shrinking.
As long as I can get to an independent vet, I'll stay with an independent vet. Now, if you look at the prices that I know people are being charged, and I speak to people when I'm taking the dogs out walking, that they're being charged for even a vet to look at them through these big companies, is costing 40 quid, 45 quid.
What are you paying?
27.
Extortionate. I've got some customers that can't afford to get their dogs dressed and things like that. But here, here, Troy, because the prices have literally doubled in the last couple of years.
The Competition and Markets Authority have concerns in this area. They found that 60% of the UK's vet practices are now owned by just 6 large companies. That compares to 10% a decade ago, a staggering change leading to reduced competition for consumers.
One of the benefits for us of launching a market investigation is it gives us the power at the end of that investigation potentially to impose direct remedies. And that could be things like requiring vet practices to publish pricing information, potentially limiting certain fees, for example, prescription fees, potentially requiring divestment sale of certain businesses. But over and above that, we are also concerned about the regulatory framework, whether that needs to be updated. Now, that would be a matter for government.
Hey, you can sit on the table.
A move that could see a dramatic change for the independent family-run practices like this one in Lanarkshire.
I would be concerned that they decide that they have to regulate the industry completely and that we no longer can set our own prices and that the regulator comes in and tells us what prices we have to pay. So then there isn't that fluidity, like the clients haven't got choice.
The major players insist their brands are national, but practices are still locally owned and operated, setting their own prices.
Come on, guys.
The question is, what lies ahead for an industry worth £2 billion? Big business, big prices, and possible big changes to come. Conor Gillis, Sky News, Glasgow.
Now, my next guests tonight are proof that you are never too young to bring about some positive change. Fed up with having to wear ill-fitting cricket gear made for boys, Honor and Kat Black decided to make their own. They came up with Maiden, which they hope will encourage more girls to try cricket and feel comfortable enough to keep coming back. Well, March is Female Founders Month, a celebration of female entrepreneurs and business owners, especially those behind products tailored specifically for women. And I'm delighted to say Honor and Kat are joining me in the studio right now, as well as Holly Tucker, founder of Holly & Co and co-founder of Not on the High Street. Ladies, welcome. To talk about Female Founders Month. Holly, I'm going to go to Honor and Kat first, because this is quite remarkable. You're both in your GCSE year, coming up to your GCSE year. And as well as studying, you've taken on a business, but this was born out of frustration, Honor. Talk to me about how this came about.
Well, I mean, Kat and I were playing from a very young age. I was from about age 6, I think Kat maybe from age 8,
yeah,
something like that, playing in our brother's kit, so didn't even have our own.
Yeah.
Exactly. Not even hand-me-downs, he's younger than us, so for me, hand-me-ups. But, you know, and then in his teams with his mates. And as we progressed, as we got a bit older, and we played in our own clubs, and then there were female teams almost starting to form. We were like, well, we've had enough of this now. We want to create something. We want to do something that will make women feel more included in the sport. So we were like, the best way to do that to begin with is with the kit, because the kit was ill-fitting, see-through, there was little protection around it for females. So we thought that the best way to start off would be with the kit.
So, Kat, from an idea, you created a business which has only just been up and running in the first couple of weeks. How did you go about that, and what kind of support did you get? Because 2 young girls, you know, presumably you've not started a business before. What was it like? What was that whole experience like?
Well, obviously, we've had a lot of help, especially from family and friends and school and everything like that. And we've obviously gone and made the kit ourselves, like fitted for girls perfectly. And the response have been like really positive. Everyone's been really supportive. So
I love that. Up on their PR and marketing, they're wearing the brown now. I mean, Holly, this is so impressive, isn't it? Because Female Founders Month is all about highlighting the contribution that women entrepreneurs make to the UK economy and to the world of business, but also highlighting the struggles and difficulties they can face.
Absolutely. I mean, I've been at this now for 20 years, supporting small businesses and women entrepreneurs, and it is incredible. So congratulations to start with, and it's amazing to see you coming through. And we just need more of this, because ultimately it is a sorry state of affairs when you look at some of the statistics out there. So last year, 2p out of every pound went to female-founded businesses through the VC world, which actually is just appalling, because we need more female founders. We need women to represent women. You know, we're 50% of the population. We have incredible ideas, but we have things that are working against us. And, you know, as I said, after 20 years, not on the high street, now Holly & Co., which all about supporting women, supporting small businesses. You know, it's now I'm on the mission for another 20 years to try and see what I can do something about this all. Yeah, Honor, you've only been up and running a couple of weeks, but what's been the reaction? Because fair play to you, pardon the pun, you've spotted a gap in the market through your own experience, and it's the female experience, which you were talking about, Holly. You know, what's been the reaction since you've been up and running?
Well, I think you can't really have anything but positive reactions for it, because, as you said, it's a gap in the market, but not only a gap in the market, but it's something that needed to be changed, not just... we managed to find it for cricket, but it needs to be changed in sport for females in general, and, as Holly was saying, in businesses for females in general. So I would say that loads of people have been very, very supportive of it. I mean, you'd always have the odd comment from immature little boys, but those fly by. We were having a nice chat before this, and we said, put it in.
They're not running their own businesses, are they, in their teens? Kat, it is really important, isn't it? Because we always talk about getting girls into sport, and sport, you know, begins for girls at school when they're young. But as you alluded to on it, the female body changes during puberty, and often the sports kit and the sport doesn't really adapt to that. The girls have to fit in around it, and so many girls drop out. I mean, Kat, what's been your experience of that through your peers?
Well, it was quite embarrassing, obviously, playing with the boys. There were obviously a few incidents that's happened whilst playing with see-through kit, as you can imagine.
Yeah. And cricket is white. It's the same with tennis whites as well, isn't it?
It is awful. It's quite embarrassing. So, obviously, we just want to create a sisterhood amongst cricket and want girls to feel comfortable playing the sport that they love. So we've designed the kit to make sure, like, it's not see-through, it's well-fitted, you feel comfortable, you feel confident whilst playing your sport, whilst also looking good.
Yeah. I suppose the goal is to get this to the pro women cricketers,
exactly.
right? Yeah, OK, I like the ambition, I like the ambition. Holly, just a word about investment in female businesses, because we talk about that a lot, don't we? Angel investors. Women really struggle to find investment from men and from other women as well.
Well, as I said about this, 2p in every pound goes to female founders. But when you look at the venture capital world, there is only 30% of VCs who are female. So you have to think about when you're going into that boardroom, you're trying to sell your idea, no doubt you will have a man looking at the idea. But it also goes into the point that actually women at this day and age, you know, there is a triple shift generation. We have more emotional, more financial and more caring responsibilities. So we have to deal with that when we're thinking about starting a business. We have issues such as childcare, so it's so expensive. If you've got a full-time job, are you really going to give it up for that dream that you have? You then have statistics, which is 8 out of 10 children cannot name a female entrepreneur. And yet when you say the word entrepreneur, you're more likely to think of a man. Does that give women confidence to go for it? It doesn't. So ultimately, when you look at the Rose Report, one of the things they cited was the fact that women don't have confidence to do this. And actually, that's what I'm going to spend my whole career doing, is to try and help women dream big, because ultimately, we can have wonderful days like International Women's Day. As I said, I've done 20 of them now. But I've got some, you know, the statistic about 2p in every pound hasn't changed in a decade. So actually, I think it's time for women to take matters into their own hands. If 35 million working women right now probably all watching your show, of course, as I do. What if we all backed a woman? A woman backing a woman backing a woman? What if we created the chain reaction? Because we have fantastic disposable income with the CEOs of our household.
Yeah.
What if we all decided, from this show even, to back you, to back me, and actually put our money where our mouths are? Because I think actually women do care, but we've got to do something that we're not saying the same statistics next International Women's Day.
Well, Holly, there's an aim, and you know, we've got Honor and Kat here starting young, and next time we're asked to name some female entrepreneurs, Honor and Kat Black are their names with Maiden. Good luck with it, girls. I'm really looking forward to following your journey. It's only just begun, and Holly, always a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Right, coming up tonight at the end of the show, we've got a roundup of day one at Cheltenham in the sport for you, and you can find out which royal has had a Barbie makeover.
I'm Katie Spencer and I'm Sky News' arts and entertainment correspondent. When you think of Glastonbury, it's mud you want and music. They're going to cross to us live in a minute. Okay. Thank you so much. Brad Pitt is now a prolific producer behind the scenes.
It's not a mystery to me. We always were capable of doing this.
Oh, they're wonderful children as an audience.
Who did that? Maverick here on the red carpet. I'm so excited, Tom Cruise. This is the story of the night.
It's the little independent film that could.
We take you to the heart of the stories that shape our world.
Nor have I ever struck any woman in my life.
There's this illusion of power.
Are you feeling well?
I remember covering the Oscars and that now infamous moment, the Will Smith slap. Nobody could quite believe that it had happened. You can tell from these crowds just how excited people are for the return of Pride.
These actors playing the lead roles were born long after the Sex Pistols broke up.
Are you pleased that you did say yes to the job?
I've never regretted it.
As a team, we've interviewed some of the biggest stars in the world. It can be incredibly surreal being swept up in their world, but we try to give you an honest sense of how these people really are.
Okay, I'll talk to you.
Don't leave me!
Yeah, okay.
There's no easy goodies. There's no easy baddies.
I've had a great time here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Hello, welcome back to the UK Tonight. The Queen gets her very own Barbie doll. We'll take a look at that in a few minutes' time. But first, our very own Teddy is here with the sport. Let's talk about Cheltenham, shall we? Day one has got underway. The biggest date in the racing calendar.
Yeah.
What did it look like, apart from soggy?
Well, yeah, it was rainy, wasn't it? So the ground was, I think, was definitely heavy tomorrow, but it rained all morning. It got kind of a little bit lighter, the showers, and a little bit dry as the afternoon went on. But it's a fascinating spectacle, isn't it? Because it's where you have hundreds of thousands of people descending on this picturesque but quite sleepy town on the edge of the Cotswolds. I think they've got a population of 118,000 people, but over the course of the next 4 days, 200,000 people are there. There's 134,000 people come through the train station, and also around 50,000 people come over from Ireland, and they'll be happy today as well because their star trainer's been on form on the first day too.
Yeah, we could be set for a landmark moment for, as you said, one of racing's legendary trainers.
Yeah, Willie Mullins, here he is winning the first big race of the day, or the week, champion hurdle. Paul Towland actually got 3 winners for him, the jockey there in the yellow and black, and it takes Willie Mullins to 97. If you think that Nicky Henderson, who's Britain's most successful trainer at Cheltenham, has 73. Wow. Still going, by the way, Nicky Henderson. He'll be at the festival. He is at the festival this year. But Willie Mullins is now 3 shy of the 100 mark. He's been a trainer since the 1980s. He's got his first winner at Cheltenham in 1995, and he's aged 67 now, but going very strong. Another event not for Willie Mullins was Rachel Blackmore, who was a leading female jockey, or first ever leading jockey to be a woman 3 years ago, female jockey to do that. She won today, but it was about Willie Mullins by and large.
Yeah, it could be about him on Gold Cup Day as well on Friday. I'm going to that.
Are you?
Yeah, he's trained the big favourite, hasn't he?
He is.
That's the one everyone's going to be putting their money on.
Yeah, he's got 3 Gold Cup winners. One came with one horse. He's got Galopin de Champs, who won last year, and he's looking to back that up. He's 11-8 favourite currently. Nicky Henderson has a horse a lot of people are favouring, Shishkin, but it could well be. He's got the favourite for tomorrow's feature race as well, the Queen Mother Champion Chase. So it's going to be interesting to see if he gets on the cusp of it. Imagine getting the 100 up. Wow. On Gold Cup when you're watching on Friday. It'd be a special moment, and you wouldn't necessarily bet against it. Although he did get 10 winners one year, so he only needs 3 more. So he could be there already, but we'll see.
OK.
Anyway, meanwhile, it's a busy night of football with Arsenal in Champions League action.
This Sky News Sports Bulletin is brought to you by Vitality. Getting more people more active. Live life with Vitality.
Every week across the UK, 85% of school-age students take part in approximately an hour of sport a week. Organised grassroots sport has lower numbers, but it translates to millions of girls and boys between the age of 7 and 20 playing sport. But there is a problem. A big problem.
Without doubt, every year we seem to be seeing more and more young people coming through with significant knee injuries, and primarily we're talking about ACL ruptures. The numbers are staggering and extremely worrying. For every one person that was having an ACL reconstruction in the late 90s, there's now 29 children having those surgeries. So the number of injuries is without a doubt
29-fold.
Yeah.
Evidence of a problem comes from multiple sources. Other surgeons and doctors are waving a warning flag.
We increased by 29 folds amount of operation. Devastating injuries that can cause complete change of their life trajectory and early risk of arthritis. People are committing to 1 or 2 sports at most at the moment, if they are going to be part of the local community. And they spend less time developing other skills that will be naturally developed when they are participating in multiple sports.
They're on screens, sedentary.
This Sky News Sports Bulletin is brought to you by Vitality.
Now, as always, we'd like to leave you with something weird and wonderful. Weird or wonderful, but tonight's weird and wonderful. Let's take a look at this. It's Queen Camilla. She's been given a Barbie makeover. This doll was presented to the Queen in recognition of her role as president of the Women of the World Foundation. Wow, indeed. Somehow they arranged it so that the doll was wearing exactly the same outfit as Queen Camilla. The Queen joking that it made her look 50 years younger. Time now for a look at the weather.
Warm memories wherever you go. The weather, sponsored by Qatar Airways.
The rest of the weekend is going to stay unsettled, I'm afraid. Localised flooding, but southwesterly winds mean it will be very mild. Cloud is going to be quite extensive this evening, bringing outbreaks of rain, especially to the windy north and west. Rain is going to spread across many areas tonight, clearing to showers in the far northwest later, but southern Britain will be largely dry. It's going to be mild for most, but windy, with coastal gales developing in the west. Central Britain and much of Ireland will see rain tomorrow morning, which is going to clip the east of Northern Ireland as well. Further north, it's going to be mainly dry and sunny, but the Western Isles can expect some showers. Southern Britain, mainly dry as well, but there'll be plenty of cloud around, which will bring some light rain to the hills. It's going to be very mild but windy, with severe gales possible in the far northwest. The afternoon, similar, but more of northern Scotland will be at risk of showers and severe gales. Looking ahead to Thursday, further spells of rain, but the southeast is looking dry.
The weather, sponsored by Qatar Airways.